This is Talking Drupal, episode 157. Welcome 2018. Welcome back, guys. Happy 2018.
It's good to be back.
We're here.
2018.
It is
2018.
Yeah, it is. And we took a little break for you patient listeners out there. I appreciate those who've reached out to me and said, hey, you guys gone? And as I assured you, you would hear from us in 2018. So here we are. We took a little break at the end of the year to focus, reset, and I think we're ready to roll. And to start off the show, let's do some introductions. What do you say? I'm Stephen Cross, and joining me, we have John Picozzi from Oomph, and we have Nic Laughlin from Enlightened Development. So, guys, how's your 2018 going?
So far, it's better. It was a little bit colder than I'd like. For the first couple of weeks, it was, we had below 0 Fahrenheit, which is bitterly cold. And it's starting a little bit warmer today. But it's been a good year so far. A couple of weeks.
I can't complain. It's kind of picking up right where 2017 left off. Busy working, doing some cool stuff with Drupal, and liking winter, liking the snow, enjoying it.
Yeah, that's great. How did you guys enjoy the little break we took from Talking Drupal? Was it needed, or did you miss this show, or what?
It was good because it fell right in that area of like holiday time where you're crazy already and you're taking time off and like 800 million things need to get done. So, I missed the listeners and missed talking to you guys, but it kind of worked out.
I have to say, I agree. It was the first couple weeks was a little weird, but I think it was definitely something that was needed, and I'm excited about what we've got coming up.
Yeah, our recording had been so spotty in 2017 that I actually hadn't noticed that we were gone for a while. You know what I mean? We weren't as steady as we had always hoped to be and planned to be in 2018. So for those of you who hung in with us, thank you. And we do have some interesting shows scheduled. We plan on being quite regular here, and we're going to kick off 2018 now. So today's show is sort of getting reset, reflecting a little bit about 2017 from a Drupal side, and looking at things that are coming up in 2018. So, I mean, what do you guys have for highlights for 2017 in Drupal?
So Drupal went through some transitions. I mean, Drupal 8 was released very late 2016. Was it 2016? 2015, but 2016 was getting up to speed. I feel like 2017 was the year where where Drupal 8 really started to, get some mainstream success. People started to really use it. I didn't have to really field the question on which version of Drupal we were using anymore. Every new project was definitively Drupal 8. You started to really learn, a lot of the glue modules that you were used to in Drupal 5, Drupal 6, and Drupal 7 just aren't necessary in Drupal 8. They can just be, most of that work can be done out of the box. But on the flip side, there's still a couple of modules that I think, you really started to feel that they were missed. I think web form was one, and I think that's actually came a really long way in 2017. And I'll be using that in a project shortly. So hopefully that fills the gap that has been in there for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've continued to improve on Drupal itself as well. Throughout 2017, we've seen Drupal 8.3 with some improvements like Big Pipe and a bunch. Big Pipe moving from an experimental module to a stable module, and then many new experimental modules in 8.3. And then we've also seen the introduction of 8.4. So Drupal is progressing as a system and following the new development schedule that's being put forth. And 8.4 has some of those experimental modules and initiatives have been put into practice in 8.4, and some new experimental modules have been created and updated. So I think as far as Drupal goes, Drupal's moving ahead, and using Drupal 8 is really quite amazing. Enjoying the work that I'm doing with Drupal 8 on a daily basis.
Yeah, I've been real happy about the way Drupal 8 has stuck with their release schedules. I mean, stuff is constantly coming out now, right? And these experimental modules is a great implementation to a great approach to take to this. Are you guys turning on Big Pipe like automatically and always?
Yeah, I was using Big Pipe in in 8.2 when it was still experimental.
Right.
And the kind of the way that I was working with it was basically turn it on and let it run while you're kind of in development. Make sure things aren't going to break. Make sure you're not seeing any bugs with it. And then if you get that far and you get out to like staging server and things still look good, just kind of rolling with it. And yeah, I've been turning it on and using it since, I would say, since 8.2.
Yeah, I actually have not used it extensively, but I have a project that's coming out over the next 2 or 3 months, and I'm looking forward to using that just to kind of see how it works.
There are there's one gotcha that I think we found over the last the last couple of months in using it. And it just goes back to Drupal best practices, making sure that you're you're wrapping your jQuery and JavaScript in Drupal behaviors code to make sure that Drupal is aware that you're doing something with JavaScript or jQuery. But other than that was the only kind of issue that we had.
One thing that I think really cemented itself in 2017 too with the Drupal ecosystem was Composer. I know when I first started having to use Composer, I was struggling, not a whole lot, but a fair amount, and questioning whether or not it was something that I would ultimately embrace or not. But 2017, I really, I found myself whenever I was working on a Drupal 7 site, needing to install modules, start typing Composer and require, and then realizing it's not going to work. I would say that there's still, Drupal, still has a couple of bugs to work out. I know that I think each of us on this call had some trouble upgrading to Drupal 8.4. Composer just didn't do what it was supposed to do. So that upgrade was a little painful, at least for me. But in general, Composer's, it certainly helps the CI workflow be a little bit cleaner and the commits be a little bit cleaner. And in what's being moved around a little bit cleaner. So I'm a pretty big fan of Composer at this point.
As I look back to 2017, there's a module that stands out to me as a big release. And since we have Mr. Commerce on the phone with us, I'm curious to know what he thinks about Drupal Commerce 2.0 finally coming out. Have you, John, had the opportunity yet to do anything with it?
I have not. So at Oomph, we have every quarter we take time to kind of work on different projects, and we have hack days, and we can basically pull a project that we want to work on and kind of mess around with it. And on our last hack day, I actually did a Drupal Commerce 2 installation. And I will say that it was super easy to get up and running. And we integrated it with Squarespace, and even that was super easy. I'm sorry, not Squarespace.
Square.
No, I don't even know where that came from. Actually, talking about Braintree, we integrated it with Braintree. I think I was thinking Square, and then that turned into Squarespace for some reason. Anyway, we integrated it with Braintree, and that was super easy. Got it up and connected, and processing fake payments through that. So that was pretty awesome. I think as a whole, the Drupal 2x, Drupal Commerce 2x is going to be a huge improvement over the first version of Commerce, and I think that it's getting a ton of support from larger companies, which is going to definitely help it to improve. So
I think one of the nice things is the multi-tenant store solution. I think that's going to be So with Commerce, you have the ability to basically have multiple stores in one installation. This works out for we actually have a client that has a site or a store per country. So you could actually do this from one Drupal installation. You could have your Canadian store and your US store and your EU store, and have that all served from one Drupal Commerce installation and management area. Also, it handles language and currency as well. Yeah, so it also works in the case if you wanted to set up something like Etsy or Shopify or something where your users are setting up their own store and configuring it. So it's a pretty cool tool.
They also included taxes for most, if not all, of Europe. So out of the box, you get tax support in Europe for Drupal Commerce. The U.S. tax system is a little bit more complicated, so you'd still have to use a service like Avalara in the U.S. But they're doing great work with the tax system as well. So a lot of great improvements. If you haven't used or looked at Drupal Commerce 2x, I would recommend definitely looking at that for your next commerce project.
And I imagine we will have at least a show over the next 12 months regarding commerce. So we'll be digging into it a little more, and certainly John will keep us updated. Hey, you guys, Nick, you mentioned that all of your work has been Drupal 8 this year. Is that the same for everyone? Pretty much?
Well, I should say all new sites that are Drupal or Drupal 8. I've actually been doing some non-Drupal work, which is pretty interesting. I've been doing some React-based and a little bit of Angular-based work, but mostly React outside of Drupal, which is it's certainly eye-opening seeing how other ecosystems work. What things are similar to Drupal's ecosystem, what things are wildly different. But it's every new project that I've been working on has been Drupal 8.
Yeah, so we've been taking the same approach. Anything new is going into Drupal 8. We still have some Drupal 7 sites that we're maintaining, and it's very interesting because the development teams that are working on those are jonesing for Drupal 8. I think the biggest area that they're looking for that the Drupal 8 ecosystem is configuration management. We've been doing a lot of work with configuration management and config split, and it's really working well for us. And it's something that we're definitely missing in the Drupal 7 space. There are ways to do it in Drupal 7, but they're not as great as what Drupal 8 has to offer out of the box.
Yeah, it's so much better. I set up a deployment workflow with Jenkins the other day for Drupal 8, and it's pretty much, pull the latest code, run Composer install, import the configuration, one or two minor custom things, run the tests. If it passes, move the files up and run config, import the config again. Whereas with Drupal 7, there's a whole bunch of stuff where you have to make sure that features get reverted correctly. You have to test that, you have to check to make sure that happened. Where in Drupal 8, it just kind of works.
Yeah, I'm actually setting up config split right now on a site, and just to be able to split your config, we'll probably have a show on configuration and config split, but just to be able to configure the splits so that you don't have to worry about certain keys going into development, or you don't have to worry about performance improvements being turned on in your development site or not being turned on your production site is super valuable. So the Drupal 7 sites will someday get upgraded, but for the time being, we're maintaining them.
Yeah. So as 2017 sort of wrapped up, there was some stories that hit the news. A couple I just wanted to bring up here just to get you guys' thoughts on them, if you have any. One of them is on the Drupal side, and I think this is kind of quiet, not really that. I kind of had to dig to find it, to be honest, is that Whitehouse.gov is moving to WordPress. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. The
reason I bring it up, not that I'm surprised that any website would be switching from technology to technology as people, as responsible parties change and they bring in vendors they like, and vendors change, they bring their own technology. So I'm imagining something like that happened here, but Whitehouse.gov was such a flagship website for Drupal. It's just surprising to see that go, or disappointing, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess I think it's kind of what you just said. It's a vendor probably changed. I'd be interested to see who the new vendor is. How WordPress stands up against it. As opposed to what Drupal is doing. But you're right, it was a flagship thing. But I think one of those things is that when you launch a new site and it's a high-profile site, you publicize that. When you lose a high-profile site,
you don't say anything.
You don't want to publicize that.
Yes. So you don't post a blog post. Hey, we just lost a customer.
And it wasn't, as far as like we just said, as far as we can tell, it wasn't that people were railing against Drupal or having problems with how it was working, or they just changed vendors and that vendor prefers WordPress. And
It was positioned slightly in I think I found 3 articles about it. It's the way the articles were positioned a little bit is we're moving to WordPress and we're saving $3 million. Almost to imply that Drupal was the reason for, Drupal was involved in the savings, which clearly that would not be the case, right?
Yeah, I think, because when I first heard about this a couple of months ago, I was reading some articles and talking to some people. I think the savings were related to one of 2 things. Either they had over provisioned, based on security and hosting and that kind of stuff, for the Drupal site. And so a lot of the savings they realized that they'd over provisioned, so they scaled back. Or vice versa, they under provisioned for the new site, and maybe they're going to find out that they need $3 million worth of infrastructure and the costs will just go up. Like, we don't know. And then the second thing was savings from, I think, and I'm not sure how accurate this piece is, but it could be speculation, but they removed some features. So like one of the sites that was related to Whitehouse.gov was that petition site, the wepetition.org, I think. Right. And that contract was canceled. And that site's actually down now. So it's possible that the new contract also just doesn't have as many services. So
I guess.
What?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I did see that it positioned the same way you did, that the 3 million, but I can't see how that would be related to Drupal versus WordPress.
Well, I think you guys missed a big part of this. It's going from Drupal to WordPress.com.
So is the contract directly?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I thought you could get a website for like $25 a month or something.
You can, totally.
Yeah. I mean, every podcast I listen to is trying to get me to buy a WordPress.com website for only $15 or $10 or whatever.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I was like, oh, $25. I'm like, no wonder the White House is saving $3 million.
Could you imagine if they actually tried to do it? I think that would just be hilarious. Like, some engineer at WordPress would like, somebody just changed the DNS of Whitehouse.gov to one of our free accounts. I think we might need to do something about that.
No, I'm sure it'd be fine.
So, how about your thoughts on this is actually 2018 news, but it's sort of end of year. We'll use it to transition. Meltdown and Spectre. Now, the three of us have been going back and forth on Slack the last few days about this, and we certainly don't need to recap all that. But is there a Drupal spin here to this story? Anything that we should be concerned about? I think it just comes down to maybe our personal environments and our hosting providers, I guess.
I think there is. I think the big thing is one, development gets a little bit. So for people that don't know, Meltdown and Spectre are two exploits that were discovered last year, and patches have been released, and I continually confuse the two of them, but basically one of them affects Intel more than other vendors, and the fix is basically a huge performance decrease. Now, the way it affects Drupal is twofold. One, development times are slightly longer, just because running tests, installing things can take long. Like, for example, and this is anecdotal, but installing Yarn with Homebrew, I did that, 6 months ago. It took 5 minutes, and I did it 2 weeks ago on my desktop, and it took 5 minutes to install Yarn. This Monday, I had to reinstall Yarn on my laptop because I must have deleted it for some reason. So I used Homebrew to install it, and it took a good 30 minutes to install. And you're starting to, the second piece of that is services are going down.
Are you implying that you installed it after you did an OS upgrade?
Yeah, I got the update, I think Sunday night or over the weekend.
Huh.
And anything that deals with reading and writing, I could tell you other issues that I had over the weekend with reading and writing, but the second thing is services have started to go down, and there's a lot of speculation that is due to these updates. Like Bitbucket was down yesterday, Slack was down yesterday, and you look on Twitter and you see people saying like, "Hey, we just had the update. Look, we're now utilizing 40% more CPU," and the other big area that this will affect is it's basically anything that's read or write heavy will have a huge performance decrease. And Drupal relies on read and writes with the database a huge amount. So I think that for your smaller sites, it's probably not a huge deal. But if you have a really big high performance site, you're going to need to either provision more database servers or make your database servers bigger in general to handle the same load.
I would imagine large hosting vendors that are providing cloud services, a 5% increase or 5% increase in demand would impact their business and their services pretty dramatically.
So there's talk about a huge class action law, like from Azure, AWS, and Google, because like you said, for some things, like I have a client that utilizes a ton of AWS services. And for some of them, it just means, well, now they have to go from a medium instance with the databases to a large instance just to be able to handle the same load. But for some things like Lambda, where you're paying for CPU cycles, well, now each object, each cycle takes twice as many CPU cycles. Well, now your bill is just going to be twice as expensive at the end of the month. So you're going to start
this
seeing,
is all anecdotal right now, right? Really, we won't know.
Some of it. If you look, like I said, I've been following this pretty closely for the last couple of days. You see, there's a ton of charts out there that show, we have 3 servers. We updated one of them, and that one server has 15% more utilization.
Well, I've seen charts where their performance has gone 2 times.
Yeah, I've seen worse too.
Yeah.
So we won't know for sure the whole impact of all this. But it's certainly going to be a long time before we know that. I don't necessarily think it means that everything's going to burn to the ground, but expect some things to be slower. I
guess we've been trading performance for security for quite a long time, and it caught up to us in general.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say probably. Actually, I would go a step further and say that they were trading security for profit.
Profit. Okay. Yeah.
Not necessarily
Sure.
performance.
Yeah. So you're assuming that someone knew about this when you say that, right? Yeah. Okay.
I think the CEO of Intel said that he knew that they were doing this and he knew of it.
While he was selling stock.
Well, I'm not talking about a 6-month period, John. I'm talking about the last 10 years. It's been 12 years.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Yeah. I don't know the time frame and to which he was like, yeah, we're doing this. And, oh, well, this could be potentially a security vector. I don't know anything about that, but I did hear somewhere that he was aware that this was some sort of issue and that it might come back to bite them. But everybody wants their website to perform well. And I think, the fact that this is a large performance issue is going to cost a lot of people a lot of money to buy. So,
and it's not gonna be an easy fix because, for somebody like Netflix, say they have 800,000 CPUs out there, they can't just, they're going to need to buy another 300,000 just to be at the same place that they are today. But Amazon's going to have to buy, another 500,000, and Google. So it's not like at some point it's going to be almost impossible to just go out and buy new CPUs for a while.
Are you suggesting this is marketing ploy from the
because
vendors?
No. Because here's the thing, like you're going to have to buy those if you're Intel, which is the one that had the huge performance issue, you have to buy that many Intel, or you have to replace everything with AMD.
Right.
And AMD can't even keep up with their manufacturing, like the demand right now anyway. So, it's a big issue. It's going to take a long time to fix. And to fix this design flaw, you're 4 or 5 years out on the chip. So,
it's certainly it's been fascinating to me. I've read a lot of stuff about it too, and it's going to be interesting to watch how this unfolds in 2018. As a Mac user, mostly these days, I am disappointed that Apple hasn't come out with. I don't even know if they plan on it. I can't even find any news that they've patched High Sierra, but they haven't patched Sierra or El Capitan yet. And I'm like, are you planning on patching these? Because I don't want to upgrade to High Sierra yet. So
based on their battery practices, I would say probably not.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. So before we move into 2018, I do want to share some personal news. Is that I am sitting in front of a Linux desktop right now.
Proud of you.
I actually decided many months ago that my friend Nick Laughlin, who's always saying Mac sucks, which I disagree with completely. I'm still a Mac lover and user, but I wanted to see what it was going to be like to put a Linux desktop on my desk, and I did it about a month ago. It's been my primary machine for development for probably about 3 weeks. And it's not perfect, and I'm probably underpowered for the machine I got to start with. I got sort of a little baby machine to start with, but so far so good.
You want to know the real irony? I'm recording on my Mac right now.
Yeah, I know. That's funny. We're actually recording this on the Linux machine, so hopefully this doesn't crash.
I did get my webcam working on Linux again, but the USB cable is too short, so you guys would be seeing my chest right now. So I need to get a new cable extender.
Are you implying that Linux machine has a USB port?
Yeah. Oh no, this is my. I'm using my personal Mac, not the new one I'm talking about.
He's implying the Linux machine is underpowered, so it can't handle the video.
All right, so 2018, we're in 2018. What are you guys looking forward to? Let's start with Drupal-y stuff.
Oh man, I am looking forward to one pretty large thing.
I imagine you are.
And I actually look forward to it every year. So this year, DrupalCon.
What was
conflicted. Anyway, DrupalCon this year is going to be in Nashville. So looking forward to going to Nashville. Also looking forward to or noticing something that came out of DrupalCon 2017 was the DrupalCon branding announcement. So for anybody that's been paying attention, or maybe you haven't, you just noticed that the DrupalCon Nashville emails, website, the whole nine has a certain look to it. And that was actually announced at DrupalCon Baltimore, that DrupalCons would be branded with a kind of overarching brand. So there'd be certain elements that would be customized per location, but the colors, the fonts, the look and feel would all be the same. So DrupalCon now has its own branding that comes along with it. So you can say, oh, that's DrupalCon, as opposed to in years past where every con has had its kind of own branding and different look and feel. So Nashville's the first DrupalCon to be using the new branding standards.
So I wonder if that's a cost saving thing, just like the canceling Europe, so that they don't have to rebrand every year and they just kind of tweak it.
So if you look at the DrupalCon Nashville site, you'll notice that the as I said, color scheme is the same, but you'll notice that some of the logo treatments are a little bit different. I know they were using kind of the color. So they have all these different little colored triangles, and they were putting them together for Nashville in the shape of like a guitar. So there are some kind of areas where you can inject some of the location specific branding. But yeah, the idea was to kind of make DrupalCon more of a brand altogether, as opposed to having each con basically have its own branding.
I'm impressed that 2018 is excited by the branding of DrupalCon.
Well, it's excited. It's really exciting. Excited by DrupalCon in general. I think the branding is kind of a big piece of it. Sessions closed for DrupalCon January 17th. So depending on when you're listening to this, keep that in mind. And I'm always excited for DrupalCons. I feel like, you get to see a lot of people that you don't typically see throughout the year. And you also get to watch and learn about a lot of very cool and different things. One of the things that, is a prediction slash question for this year is, will Stephen and Nic attend a DrupalCon this year? I don't know. You'll have to wait and see. It's something that's on the horizon.
I have my answer already, but I guess we'll just wait and see. We'll keep it up on the hook for that.
The suspense is killing me.
Okay. All right, Nic, how about you? Anything jumping out at you for 2018?
For Drupal related,
or not Drupal related.
I mean, Drupal related. Yeah, I mean, for both things. I mean, Drupal related, I'm looking forward to, just continuing to build Drupal sites. I'm looking forward to Drupal 8.5. I think the minor release schedule has worked out really well. And non-Drupal related, I'm looking forward to travel. We've got some big trips we still haven't finalized, so I'll keep our listeners in suspense for that too. But we've got some plans, so I'm looking forward to that. And my wife's starting a master's program, so I think that'll be exciting. Get to hear all about tissue culture and master's biology related stuff. So a lot of good stuff coming.
Actually, I'm curious about this one item in the agenda here. That's wearables. I'm kind of curious as to what's that about.
So one thing was listening to This Week in Tech last week, I think it was, and they were talking about
Sunday's show, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about they were talking about the future and the future of the smartphone and the tablet and how those things are going to kind of go away, and how wearables are going to be like the new hot thing. And for a long time, I've always, as people that know me and can see me, know that I've worn glasses pretty much all my adult life. And the one thing that I've been kind of looking for is some sort of wearable glasses. Google had Google Glass that was pretty short lived and ended up kind of being a flop. Sorry, Google. But I'm looking for, I think Apple is probably going to try to put out some sort of new wearables, whether it's this year or maybe next year. Not really sure, but I'm interested to see if somebody goes down the road of wearable glasses where,
Snapchat did.
A user can, so like similarly, but where a user can say, oh, here's my prescription, send me a pair of glasses, and they'll kind of do what Google Glass did, where they'll have overlays and they'll be voice enabled. So I think the possibilities there are very cool, and I'd be very interested to be able to say like, hey, glasses, call Steve Cross, or hey, glasses, set a reminder for, and not have to have my phone nearby, or not have to have
you're describing the Apple Watch. You're describing the Apple Watch slightly.
Well, and that's the other thing this year. So this past year, the big barrier for me on the Apple Watch was that you always needed to have your phone. Well, the newest model of the Apple Watch now has a cell signal, so you have the ability to just bring your watch. You can go out on a run, your watch is connected. You can say, "Hey, remind me to cook dinner," or hey, or set a timer for this, or do this other thing, and it'll use that wireless connection to do whatever you need it to do. So that was a big change in my thinking on Apple Watches as well. I might go out and get an Apple Watch this year for the first time.
And that's what I did. It was the cellular option that pushed me over the edge. My wife and I got one basically for Christmas. We gave ourselves Apple Watches, and
I'm sorry, you got one, so you guys share one Apple Watch?
We share one. Yeah, we share one. I get the morning, she gets the afternoon.
Today's your day with it. Okay.
No, we split it during the day. I get the first.
Oh,
half.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Do you have to pay for the signal, or is it like piggyback on?
It's a piggyback on your wireless carrier, so it's I think an additional $10 on most wireless carriers to have the Apple Watch.
Yeah, you could. I didn't know. I never really wanted a watch. Always thought it kind of would be neat. And then when the cellular came out, it was the point. So in 2017, I started to exercise a lot more. So I'm out of the house every day for at least an hour, and I hated taking my phone with me. But you can't go anywhere without having some connectivity. So that was kind of the thing that pushed me over the edge was, I could actually leave, take my music with me, at least have text messaging, or if I had to make a phone call, I could, and it actually works. It works as advertised, and it works pretty well too. It's surprising. All right. Anything else, you guys? So I'm looking forward to getting back into this show for 2018. We've got a bunch of shows pre-planned already. So you're definitely getting one this week and another one next week. And we got some booked after that. What else did I want to bring up for 2018?
I'm looking forward to NedCamp, getting into planning in that.
Yeah, so it was a success in 2017 as well. November we had New England Drupal Camp in Worcester, Mass, which was really a great location and a great camp. And we haven't picked a place yet for 2018, so that's a discussion that will be happening quite soon. Wouldn't be horrible to go back to Worcester either.
I would be a fan of that.
I bet you would. How nice is it to have something that's finally right in your backyard, right, Nick?
2017 was the year where I convinced everybody to come to Worcester and buy Linux desktops.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Anything else anyone wants to bring up before we call the first show of 2018 wrap. Hey, how about this idea too? I'm just going to throw this out here. I didn't bring it up before. We've been using this numbering for the show we're at 157 because I'm using a Linux desktop now. What if we went to a numbering scheme that was the year month? So this episode would be 18.1, then 18.2, then 18.3. Then when you go into 19, it goes 19.1, 19.2, 19.3. John's like blinking his eyes. Just a thought I had.
So year month or year episode number?
It's not month. It's year. It's the episode number.
Okay. Yeah,
so it's not tied to a date, but give someone by looking at the number roughly when the episode was.
What if we do year, episode
It's a little
number,
weird, right? John's like
overall episode number, and then just random letter. I'm okay with 18.1, 18.2,
I don't know.
etc.
Just a thought. Something to kick around with some of the other crazy ideas I have. So one thing, anyone listening, if you're listening to the show right now, you could also go to our channel on YouTube, Talking Drupal, and all the episodes will be there. We're going to backfill the ones that are missing. We probably got about a year's worth missing on YouTube, but these shows are now going to start appearing there again. So you can see this one. If you're not seeing it now, you can go to YouTube and see our lovely faces.
And my twitchy face at the idea of not using episode numbers, if that's interesting to you.
Yes. Just go to episode. So, John, what year did we record, and how old is the content from episode number 75? No idea.
It's about 2 years old because we're at 157.
Yeah, right.
now.
But you know exactly when episode 16.6 was, roughly.
No,
it was
we just
the beginning of.
Only if we have a regular recording schedule, not if we record like 2017.
I mean, here's my point of view is that, like, the way I look at podcasts is I usually look at the numbers to figure out if I've missed one. So if things start changing or they start going into like 16, 19, 19, 20, 21, whatever, I'm going to kind of wig out a little bit. But hey, you know what? This would be a great fodder for Twitter. So you can hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you think.
Just an idea. I've got a bunch of them. That's just one of them. All right, guys. Hey, great to get back together again, and we'll all chat again next week.
Sounds good.
I look forward to it.
Bye-bye.